What's up? How you guys
I
doing?
forgot about that.
Hell yeah.
I love that.
Guess I'm doing all right.
I'll
First,
throw that shit up there too.
say welcome to everyone that showed up. King Chris, thank you, man. I'm sure we'll get a couple more people trickle in here, hopefully, in the next couple of minutes. How are you guys?
Send the link to all my conspiracy theory loving relatives.
Well, let's begin by just kind of talking about briefly the topic for tonight. So there are these underground caverns beneath these structures in the Grand Canyon, and supposedly there are Egyptian artifacts that were found and hieroglyphs. I'm going to present my screen quickly and give you guys kind of a photo of the different areas that we're going to talk about. I mostly looked into the Cheops pyramid location, which is this small plateau. There's the Isis temple, which seems to be some sort of a peak. People are, the conspiracy part of it is that this was a pyramid at one point. I don't really buy that. It looks pretty damn natural.
It's different sediment.
Yeah, and then the Shiva temple, and I actually didn't look too much into that one. The Cheops seems to be where a lot of the story that I was reading into was. Crimson, I know you did a little bit of research. Did you look into the different areas at all, or did you kind of stick
So
to the Cheops?
basically what I ended up reading into was the supposed discovery. We'll go with that. I found some rebuttals. I don't know how much I trust the guy who was doing the rebuttals, but he raised some interesting points. And from there, I looked into the people who were actually supposedly involved with the work done before it was closed off. And I found some kind of interesting stuff in that regard.
Nice. So I have what's going on?
Caleb's being ruthless.
God.
God.
There's a bunch more people in here.
Yeah.
Those shelves are looking empty.
I didn't have time to move all my stuff in. I literally
that's hilarious. That's a good
doing
comeback.
the plywood and stuff and cleaning this and routing all my cables on my desk 30 minutes ago.
Yeah. It's filled with all of his accomplishments, Pilgrim.
Honestly,
Man.
well done, Caleb. Well done.
What was so funny was just I typed it and left it alone. I wanted to see if anyone would do it.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. So I'm actually gonna start with which one is it? Right here. The Cheops Plateau. And like normal, we're not gonna cover this whole damn thing. I just wanted to kind of get a basis
rundown.
A foundation for the listeners. So I did leave this one in the description below. I believe I only left 3 of them. But I can always add
the articles.
Yeah. There's a couple links below if you guys want to do your own digging and stuff. So this is.
I'll just let the wind do it for me.
Yeah. It actually doesn't say who.
I got it, but
yeah. All
right. So yeah, for whatever reason, it's not saying who wrote this article. So yeah, I had been somewhat disappointed in how little I had made it into the Grand Canyon since moving to Arizona. Okay, this is not where I want to start. Okay, the Cheops Group is a pair of summits below. The Cheops Group is a pair of summits below Isis Temple, a prominent landmark north of the Colorado River. The summits are on the edge of a region of the park where most of the features are named after Egyptian gods, pharaohs, and temples. While the Park Service will tell you due to an old surveyor really unlikely.
Really
liking Egyptian stuff. Yeah, I don't know why.
Well written.
Yeah.
Did you actually say really?
Did I? Yeah. Did I fucking write this or?
Well, there's a comma there, to be fair. So
yeah,
it's not improper English.
You're right. It's spelled right.
It's like 5th grade English.
So conspiracy theorists believe it stems from an ancient Egyptian underground city in the Grand Canyon, reportedly discovered by S.A. Jordan. and G.E. Kincaid in 1903, funded by the Smithsonian. The Park Service stands that those reports, published 16 years before the Grand Canyon was a park, were a hoax, but suspiciously made it illegal to explore every cave within the park aside from the Cave of Wonders on Horseshoe Mesa. So this is kind of the first talking point I want to go over, is the whole legality situation, right? So
yeah, so you and I were talking about this
Mhm.
Earlier, and you said, it's illegal to search those caves, and my first thought was, well, of course it is. It's probably extremely dangerous, and they have to spend so much money to rescue these people. They've probably had to do it so many times they made it illegal. And then what did you say?
Well, one of the reasonings was that it's to protect bats, and I've seen that in multiple different articles, and that's not outside of the question, right? Like, there could be a native species that they're trying to protect, but another weird part about it is that they barred off the cave, first of all, so that doesn't make sense. You don't, because you're not going to trap the cave. Those bars aren't for the bats, and I guess you could argue, well, they don't want people wandering in there. But on top of that, they actively arrest people for even trying to make it to the location to where you can hike down into the ravine. So that's where I'm like, it's a little suspect that you're going to make it illegal.
It's quite sus.
And then it's also suspect that you're going to actively arrest people trying to get there. And so one of the arguments too was the Mount Everest claim, right? Like that is 100% extremely deadly and dangerous. And if you choose to go up there, they will let you die if you don't.
You're actually more likely to die than reach the summit, right?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, for the average person.
No, we were.
It's also not in America, though.
Yeah, so we were. Diamond and I were talking about that, and that's what I said. I was, it's not America, and it's a big part of their budget. Basically, they get a lot of money from these people.
Yeah.
So one thing that I will say,
they don't waste any on rescue. So
yeah, dog, I expect you probably know some stuff about this, not for any nefarious reasons, just your knowledge of DNR. DNR and EPA and all those people, they take animals very seriously. And so I could see DNR or the Department of the Interior, who handle the parks, I could see them deciding, no, these bats are extremely important, and going to bar something to keep people out. But that I do agree that seems
I don't think
so. I have
extreme.
I have something that might be relative to that. So like, with the bats and protecting people, if we're combining those two, it could very well be that if people go in there, the methane may be so high that they don't make it back out anyway.
The what?
The methane levels? Well, wouldn't bats die from methane too?
Well, yeah.
Not necessarily if they're up on the ceiling.
That's true.
It is a
Crimson, I know
gas,
you wanted to say something.
No, my point being on like the safety issue, one of the things is there might be a little bit of like a believability bias because people climb Mount Everest. There are stories, plenty of stories about that. It's something that's kind of just like not so much taken for granted, but it's something we kind of like are used to. As far as like hiking down in the Grand
fucking
Canyon,
seatbelt law, like.
Yeah. As far as hiking down into the Grand Canyon, it still is dangerous. I don't think it's as dangerous as going up Mount Everest, but here in the States, you're going to be spending a lot of resources, and people are more likely to sue the park and the Park Association and all that for not doing anything about people getting lost in the canyon.
Now, my main argument against this whole "it's too dangerous for your own good" is that sure, maybe there's one or two cave systems or entrances that are way too dangerous to just let the average citizen go to. I almost guarantee that they know and have found entrances that aren't that dangerous. So to
Mhm.
outlaw the whole area kind of makes me think like there's a little bit more to this. And on top of that, we know with these institutions that there are certain places in Egypt that they bar off and it's illegal to go down.
Mhm.
And I kind of think that's because they don't want people knowing what's actually down there. And that's definitely the tinfoil hat that I wear.
Do
But
you have a picture that like shows maybe a topographic outline of the cave systems that we know about?
I think there's one in this article.
Oh, I know what you're saying.
Because I was
I
thinking,
saw one. Here.
I recently came across that a video about that guy that was it's not spelunking. What's because spelunking is like the big caves.
That's
But the
like
guy that
jumping
was,
into
like-
them, I think.
Do what?
I think that's like when you jump into them from the top, right?
Yeah.
thought
What's
that's
the one
cave
where
diving.
you like crawl through the very small ones?
Crazy.
Stuff that I don't do.
Claustrophobic?
Yeah.
So I came across this article about this guy that was
Exploring.
doing that and ended up dying after 28 hours because he went down he like took a left instead of a right and got
Went in the
stuck.
wrong hole.
Yeah, wrong hole. He took a left instead of a right, got stuck for like 28 hours and then had a heart attack while they were trying to rescue him.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, and this guy was apparently like world renowned for for doing this shit. So I could definitely, and this is really playing the devil's advocate here, but I could definitely see, the Department of the Interior going, nope, close them all fucking off. We're not dealing with this shit.
so the only thing I'd have to say to that is,
Mhm.
two things. First, be retarded at your own risk.
Yep.
Second of all, like if they allow you to go into places where there's 10-inch crevices by 2 feet, which there are many caves that are legal to go,
Yeah.
to go exploring and that are like that.
But
this
are they on national parks?
That's true. I don't. There are
would
some, yeah.
imagine, right?
There probably
The
are
pinnacles,
some.
yeah.
They
The
not?
pinnacles in
Um,
California are like that.
Mhm.
So let's move a little bit more forward.
I think
What's that?
I don't totally discount Daimyo's well, not necessarily Daimyo's, but him just playing advocate or devil's advocate of, maybe they don't want people down there, going like this.
Oh, look at this. Look at that. Look at this. Oh, look at this. Would you look at this?
Fucking A,
Where's
man.
that from?
Oh, some other YouTuber.
And Bassmaster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and look, why I think we were briefly talking about this backstage. I think the whole boneyard thing. We're not gonna go on a tangent on that. But institutions are known for doing stuff like this, where they can't.
Mhm.
It's not that there's something specific that they're hiding from the public, but more so that they can't explain it themselves, and they don't want any distrust amongst the public, right? That's kind of what I'm kind of like inclined to think, is that there might be something unexplainable down there. Maybe it goes back to dating or artifacts, and they just they can't explain why they found this certain thing, and they just don't want there to be distrust amongst their reputation. So
Yeah.
I think there's something like that going on with this situation, and there's plenty of that going on in Egypt as well.
Yeah. Well,
So-
we were talking about the caves themselves, like, because you mentioned that they found, or there are claims that there are hieroglyphics in those caves.
Mm-hmm.
And so my question for you, because I didn't know about any of this. I'm just here because I clicked the link. But are they claiming that, 15,000 years ago, ancient Egyptians came over here and dug the tunnels? Or are they claiming that, or is the claim simply there is a relationship between ancient Egypt and Arizona, and there are hieroglyphics from this ancient culture?
So Crimson might have found something else on this. What I have found so far, I found one website that shows a whole bunch of artifacts that we'll get into, but I don't. It's kind of it doesn't really feel trustworthy to me. So I'm a little skeptical of that. But we're going to go over this this article written in 2009, covering another article that was written in 1909, and they had said in the original article written in 1909 that the Smithsonian actively tried to cover it up by maybe taking artifacts and dumping them into the ocean. So that's the closest thing I got to the Egyptian artifacts. Crimson, did you happen to find anything about this?
So what I found on it is there's a really interesting like coincidence here. Is 1909. If what I read about this is true, Teddy Roosevelt was looking to make the Grand Canyon a national park to protect it from like miners and all of that. That was one of the big things, and it would take years after that. And then this story shows up in one Arizona newspaper, making the claim that someone by the name of G.E. Kincaid had, while doing a like survey trip down the Colorado River, discovered these caves full of like hieroglyphics and artifacts. As far as I have seen, that was really the only source for the story.
Right.
Now, to play devil's advocate against my playing devil's advocate here, this could coincide with the story that the Smithsonian is covering it up, and a lot of this has been deleted and just brushed to the side of history. But I find it would take a lot of work to do something like that, rather than to just like ignore it.
Do you know when in 1909?
Not off the top of my head. I don't know if it mentions.
Well, the
Roosevelt-
discovery says it was 1903. I think the article was written in 1909.
Okay, 1903 would make more sense because Roosevelt was only president for 20 days in 1909.
Yeah.
But in 1903, Roosevelt would have, I believe, just come back from the what's it called, the Panama Canal. A year later, he becomes the first president to fly with the Wright brothers. He's huge in conservation. So right around then is, I think, when he's starting the whole Department of the Interior, national parks.
Mm-hmm. So what I was suggesting with that is there is like a little bit of credence because it does kind of coincide with the beginning of like the national park system and all of that. That it could have just been a hoax, something to use to sort of further the cause of protecting the land. I don't know how much I want to believe my own theory on that, but I could see it if you would if you wanted to make the case for something like that. The other issue is that I couldn't really find any records of the people involved in it, S.A. Jordan or G.E. Kincaid. Like, I couldn't find any sort of articles on whether they existed or not. I really tried, but
well, you'd probably have to go to a public library in that area and really dig up. You'd probably actually have to do some legitimate work and homework, right? Because they're not. It might not just be a big enough topic online for people to have have dug that up themselves. But I guarantee there's probably public records of them somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of briefly going through this article. Do you guys have anything else to Crimson, you have anything else to say on this?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, let's just jump into this one, which is the article.
I will ask. I don't know if my question got answered about what the claim is. Is the claim that these tunnels are man-made, or that it's just that the stuff inside is man-made?
I think that both are man-made, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's what I've gathered from it.
Are they?
That like it's like an entire citadel inside those. I think was
it's a city essentially,
with like 50,000 mummies in some cases from various reports.
I didn't get that far into it.
I think that's the story getting blown out of proportion there. But there were claims that there were like 50,000 9-foot tall mummies.
Yeah, and so in this article I'm about to pull up here, one of the things was taught. I forget the name. I'm sure we'll go over it, but they brought up the word giant, and that's what a giant expert, and that's where I got like. Was like, okay, I'm gonna have to kind of pass that off for now. But yeah, so looks like a Mulhattan story, the origins of the Grand Canyon Egyptian cave myth. So this is written by Don Lago. He's a skeptic of this. But let's start kind of diving into this one. So in the years since 1992, some dramatic new Grand Canyon lore has emerged, mutated rapidly, taking on elaborate forms, and won a large following. The story appears on thousands of websites. It has been presented several times on a national radio show. Is now showing up in many books. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it seems that in 1909, a Smithsonian explorer named G.E. Kincaid, who was making a solo trip down the length of the Colorado River, supposedly on the second Colorado River expedition, since Powell discovered a giant cave in the cliff of the Grand Canyon. This cave was located 42 miles upstream from El Tovar Crystal Canyon. The cave was perched 2,000 feet above the level of today's river, but a setup of steps reaching 30 yards down from the cave entrance proved that the river had been 2,000 feet higher, or in the canyon, 2,000 feet shallower. At the time the cave was inhabited, the cave held an elaborate system of tunnels and chambers, hundreds of rooms with straight walls. So that's essentially, I think, what you were asking, Caleb.
Yeah, because, they've got... there are several cave systems throughout the world that they were forged by underground rivers, that they've either man has done something that's diverted that river, the water system in that area has dried up, or nature has just basically moved it. That happened with that river in South America where that bridge got built over it, and then like a week later there was an earthquake that moved the river.
And this is, that's a fair point, but I think what they're trying to get at here is that this is closer to Karahan Tepe and Göbekli Tepe, like the places that I think you're on for that.
That's what I meant. That's what I should have asked. Is this supposed to be like that, or is this?
So I take this sentence as what you're asking. Elaborate system of tunnels and chambers, hundreds of rooms with straight walls, obviously cut by humans. The chambers were full of artifacts and hieroglyphs, mummies, evidently Egyptian, and a statue that looked like Buddha. The artifacts included inscribed tablets, gold urns and cups, pottery, weapons, sophisticated copper tools, and instruments. There were granaries made out of cement, a 700-foot long dining hall still held cooking utensils. It was estimated that these chambers were home to some 50,000 people. Wow. And I think that's what you were saying before, Crimson Law, right?
Yeah.
So one thing about this story that is absolutely true, it was published on the front page of Phoenix, Arizona's Gazette on April 5th, 1909. So that answers your previous question, Caleb, about when. So explorations in the Grand Canyon / mysteries of the immense rich cavern being brought to light. Okay, this is just talking about the actual writer. Okay, the article explained that Professor S.A. Jordan of the Smithsonian Institution had now arrived to begin scientific examination of the cavern. So I think it's undisputed that the Smithsonian had something to do with this. It's hard to really tell.
I'd like to know what the process was back then of like a thing like the Smithsonian deciding, hey, we need to go look into this.
Well, I think it was that's actually a really good point. And I would say that if it was natural caves, the Smithsonian would hand that off to like geologists, right?
Well, probably not. They've got the Natural History Museum.
That's true.
And in fact, I believe the Natural History Museum was the first one.
Yeah, no.
Sure as hell wasn't that art shit.
Yeah, Modern Art Museum.
Banana on a wall.
So, okay, Jordan seemed pretty sure that the cavern was the work of Egyptians. The article said, if their theories are borne out by the translation of the tablets engraved with hieroglyphs, the mystery of the prehistoric peoples of North America, their ancient arts, who they were and where they came from will be solved. Egyptian and the Nile and Arizona and the Colorado will be linked by a historical chain running back to ages, which will stagger the wildest fancy of the fictionist. And so I think this is the argument and basis of this article, right? Is like, were they connected in some way? I remember briefly reading somewhere, Crimson. I don't know if you what's up, Sean? I don't know if you had found something about this, Crimson, but I had remembered hearing that or reading that the native peoples, like the tribe of this area, have known about these caves, but they said they don't know who built them. Do you recall reading anything about that?
I remember it being vaguely mentioned in passing, like that the natives knew a little bit about it, but I don't remember anything about them saying like we don't know who built it or all of that. Which, I mean, should probably be inferred there if they didn't give an answer as to who created it or why it's there.
Right.
I wonder when the thing you're talking about right now, let's call it an interview. When was that interview? Because if it was, between 1900 and today, I guarantee you that those tribes ain't trusting no white man to any of their secrets.
Right. Well, and this is also being, created in an age where journalism was dodgy. I mean, it's kind of always been dodgy, but it was before there was any sort of like real effort to keep things true.
Yeah,
and a small little like Arizona newspaper is given a story about something that could shake the whole world. Of course, they're just going to run with it. It'll make them money. They're a company.
Yeah, and that is actually the author brings this up later in a couple pages about how at this time, that it was gold mining and it was the era of gold mining, and like a lot of like newspapers were known for saying, "Oh, we struck gold in this town," just to get it was a new town, so people would flood to that town, and there was a lot of hoax going on. The whole, I mean, this is the time period where the snake oil salesman, became a thing, right?
Are you saying that this bottle of Miracle Elixir isn't good?
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's an argument there for that, but at the same time,
Elixir.
The mammoth bones that we were talking about before, that stuff turned out to be true. So I think it really just kind of like a needle in the haystack.
I will give you that, like the Smithsonian has not really helped themselves out by doing stuff like that. But is there any like thought among any of you guys that like this whole story could just be a product of that distrust as to why it resurfaced and why it became a popular theory about them covering this up? Like it could just be a series of like really, really bizarre coincidences, and it's actually a nothing burger. And people are just making it something because the Smithsonian has put themselves in a bad light through some of their actions.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to say. I don't like to be the type that just automatically distrusts these big institutions, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like they're going to have everything factually correct as science and as history gets uncovered more and more, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's foolish. Go on.
I feel like other topics that we've covered have kind of given us reason to give pause to these big institutions. Yeah. I mean, you have these same types of people that go over Randall Carlson for simply an idea. He's not trying to tell people this is what happened. He's trying to offer, this is a possible explanation of what may have happened, X amount of years ago. And
go on.
Any evidence that he finds, they shut it down. They poo-poo him. They they slander him. They throw the ists and everything.
Mm.
They do the same politically charged stuff as the fucking left does. So yeah, I'm actually not going to apologize for me holding reservations on what these people
Yeah.
say are fact.
Well, and to that, Caleb, you'd ask, like, do we have any pictures of the inside? I'd say that's an argument for the conspiracy side. That, look, if they're sitting here telling us there's nothing to see down there, you don't have to, like, don't worry about it. You're not allowed to go down there. This is keep it moving. This is a sanctuary for bats. It's too dangerous for you to get down there. But then they themselves don't even provide pictures of what's down there, because I already spent like a good hour today trying to find pictures of the inside. They don't show them. I think that's telling in itself.
That's why I've been quiet. I've been trying to find like a map network of the tunnel system or the cave system.
You can't.
And there isn't.
I don't generally like to consider absence of proof of one side as proof of the other. But when it comes to some of these things, it does add a sort of like circumstantial credit to a theory.
I wouldn't say it's
you won't provide evidence that we're wrong. You're just going to sit there and tell us that we're wrong.
Right, and that's the suspect.
If I can play devil's advocate for a little bit here, if the reason, let's sure, let's preserve the bats. If you start taking stuff in there, you're gonna kill the bats, and okay. Let's just take that for what it is, as a semi-okay reason. Well, if that's the reason, 100 years ago, what if the experts should be able to at least provide us with pictures of what the cave system looks like? How are they going to do that in 1924 when their torches or flashlights don't exist? Well, actually, they might have by then, but the way cameras worked, they weren't good. They're good.
Unfortunately, we've known about this for more than 100. It's almost
right. So
yeah.
What I'm more saying is that probably the more simpler reason is that when this was a big thing in 1909, they didn't have the way of going to get the pictures, and then by the time they did, it was no longer important, and there was other stuff to do.
Yeah,
I think that's closer.
I mean, but again, I think that doesn't really explain the fact. I mean, dude, you could argue they don't want to spend the resources, but I'm pretty sure they could hire someone, like freelance someone with a drone to just with a camera on it to fly in, take some footage, fly out. Right.
So when we were,
I wonder if it was like an exile area, like they.
You were asking, basically, if we trust the Smithsonian. So I'm kind of in a different way with that, because I know some of those people, at least in the American history department. I went to school with a couple of them, and then one of the person in charge of the Price of Freedom exhibit, which is the big one at the American History Museum, was a professor of mine. And so I've talked to these people, and I know like the passion and all that. And I'd have to say, I would be shocked to hear that those people refuse to go investigate. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if, let's say, the corporate council or the people that decide who's going to spend money on what. you should go to your the YouTube settings on this and put a hashtag Save the Bats.
King Chris, BLM, Bat Lives Matter.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if the people that made the decisions about who's going to spend what on what expedition or selected the grants and stuff like that. I wouldn't be surprised if they're part of the reason. But I don't think it's the people who joined the Smithsonian to provide people with the truth. I don't think it's those people.
Well, okay, so I guarantee that the guy you're talking about is a great person and very passionate about what he's studying. That's not really a good example of a doubt for the whole organization, and every single person in that organization with all the different departments in them. Like, I bet.
I'm sure there's somebody that's great at the IRS, but the whole organization sucks ass.
Yeah, no, exactly.
There's got to be at least
You
one
gotta
good
be on that
CIA person.
And also, it's like we know for a fact people so Graham Hancock. There's an argument against him that he's not a scientist nor a historian and never has claimed to be, but gets attacked. But you have someone like Randall Carlson, who's a legitimate professor and geologist and knows his shit. He's renowned in his field and studied. And
he's taking mushrooms, but
but both of these people get attacked by institutions like this, and that's really where the distrust comes from. Like, you don't want to hear anything outside of what it's kind of an echo chamber, and that's really all I'm saying, and that's kind of common across the board with all institutions, right?
Well,
Like,
that's a corporation thing. They don't want to find out that they invested in something that wasn't worth it.
Which is what I think Caleb was getting at, like the corporation side of it. Like, the big corporate boards are saying, and look, there might be people who aren't attacking, who actually would be like, that's worth investigating, but then their board and who they get their funding from says, you're not doing that. Sorry. Yeah. And they don't want to piss off people to end the work that they've already done. Right.
That is one of the nice things about the Big Bang Theory is it did do a really good job of explaining how the university system works with grant funding and stuff like that.
Right.
So I'm sure y'all weren't expecting me to bring that up, but
I wasn't expecting you to say that the Big Bang Theory was great.
Didn't have that on the bingo card. No.
Yeah.
I like the Big Bang Theory. It's a funny show.
Me too.
Sheldon just pisses me off too much for me to watch it.
He's supposed to.
Okay, that doesn't make him any less annoying.
So let me quickly scan through this to see if there's anything worth talking about.
Fuck those bats.
Okay, I think this last little bit would be good. So Childress, who I'm pretty sure Childress was the guy who wrote this original article. But Childress' presentation of the Egyptian cave story struck a chord, a mystic chord, with seekers into the esoteric. The ancient Egyptians were the masters of spiritual knowledge. Okay, this is actually just trying to connect it to the conspiracy sides of things.
Yeah, that's one of the problems I found with the rebuttals is they try to tie it into the one I found was trying to tie it into it's all motivated by creationists. And at that point, I'm like, all right, how much do I trust this guy? So I started looking him up, and he's got these articles on COVID and stuff. I'm like,
I'm happy you said that because the idea that there were Egyptians that came over here, I feel like supports creationism in a way, because one of the creationism theories is that 20,000 years ago when the flood happened, it was still Pangea, which is the giant one continent.
Yeah, the Earth was divided in the days of Peleg.
How long ago?
You
mean
I just threw a number out there.
Okay,
20,000. I just came up with a number.
Right.
The Earth is only 10,000 years old, Caleb.
That's not even a creationist theory. That's a lunatic thing. That the Earth is only 8,000 years old. That's
no, but that's to cut you short here a little bit and kind of reiterate the point. That was what the guy was saying is these creationists want the idea or love the idea of a ancient Egyptian branch off civilization here in the Americas because it supports their whole theory of creationism.
That would support Pangea, and I mean, we know Pangea happened because we can reverse engineer the movement.
We have
of,
mountains to prove it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got the mountain, and we've reverse engineered the movement of the
Tectonic plates.
continents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the idea that it's those evil creationists that that don't want this to be correct. I think that's kind of a dumb idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have something real quick.
Yeah.
So what kind of ties in with the with the possible Egyptian things, and so that kind of aligns with the Graham Hancock's theory of there was once a very advanced civilization, and there's kind of I don't know if you call it evidence, but convenient coincidence that the other pyramids were built in similar manners, similar alignments. They have similar depictions. It's the same kind of thing as like a lot of the cultural I guess sort of appropriation. how you see a lot of the tales, and there almost is a hint of communication through these areas where there shouldn't have been. And this may be, if there is indeed hieroglyphs of Egyptian origin or design, that might kind of hold a little weight to that theory as well, is that at one point before a giant comet struck and sent us back into the Stone Age, we might have been thriving and people might have been going all over the place. So,
Well, and so if you know your ancient civilization shit, like I'm talking the tinfoil side of it. If you're aware of this stuff, like me and Jim are, you know that there's a theory that Egyptians,
Atlanteans.
they built upon their civilization. They didn't, and I'm not saying that as fact. That's just the theory, is that they took a pre-existing civilization and adapted to it versus creating everything on their own. That could be a level. I don't want to die on that hill though, because it's just there's too much I don't know.
Maybe they were constructed,
but
or instructed. I mean, by
and
survivors.
That's why I would be interested to know what was inside the cave and what was found, because something that is already known is that Göbekli Tepe predates Egypt by like 6,000 years. Some of the stuff they found, and that's not like fiction.
Well,
that's legitimately
what they claim Egypt was made.
It predates the what's one of the kingdoms?
Oh yeah,
the dynastic.
It's the like.
I won't be able to. I forget.
It's whichever one that if I said Egypt, your first thought is it's that kingdom.
Start
But
with an
real
R?
quick,
You guys would know more about the history stuff than me.
Dog, you've talked about, or everyone's talked about pyramids before. So quick question: when you say basically all the different pyramids, are we just talking about the pointy triangle ones? Or are we talking about like the different ones throughout the Andes, South America?
Is there not a latitudinal line where they're basically all on?
I actually don't know that one, but Caleb, what are you actually asking right now? Like,
when you say pyramids, are you also talking about the ones that aren't just straight edges?
well, I mean, it depends. I guess I would say no.
I'm not trying to wind up a gotcha. I'm
No. I
just
know.
asking.
I'm saying like it depends on what specifically we're talking about.
Okay.
So like when I was
Jim,
talking
5 minutes ago, when you were talking about the pyramids, were you just talking about ancient Egyptian pyramids, or all the tall, semi-triangular shaped?
The Mayan.
Okay.
the pyramids in China.
Yeah. I was just curious.
No, not just your standard. Also, your like temple style pyramids that are also built in incredible architectural techniques.
So this one gets interesting. I'd like to know what you guys think about this little paragraph. They discovered an immense room in dimensions about 100 yards in width by about 100 feet in height. The beauties of this chamber are simply indescribable. It is called the Crystal Chamber and is well named. At a distance of about 3 miles in a very picturesque spot, 6 mummies were found on a ledge of rocks. They were reposing in stone coffins, rudely constructed, and presented every appearance of the Egyptian mummies. 3 of the mummies were male and 3 female. The female mummies had a fine, intelligent, refined cast, beautiful, even thousands of years after the visit of the destroying angel. Now, before you guys go on, I just want to say it's very hard to speculate on something that isn't factually been found or proven to be true.
Yeah.
So that's my first.
So that is a excerpt of a article from this illustrated newspaper.
Yeah.
Written in 1878.
Yes.
So when did they dig up King Tut?
It's a good question. Dog, you want to get on that one for me?
I don't know anything about it.
Well, I meant Google. Jamie, can you pull that up?
Shit, yeah.
He might get to the keyboard and start typing it into Google. Google will know.
What is it?
When did King Tut get found or excavated, rather?
King Tut.
Looks like 1923. Oh wait.
Oh wait, indeed.
So they spent like those like big guys that were doing all that shit. It looks like they spent about 15 years in the Valley of the Kings.
Dude, can we not get Maria on this shit?
Yeah, so on February 17th, 1923, just after 2:00, the seal on the thing was broken and he was opened up. So
I'm showing 1920.
yeah, my understanding is that Tut was the first mummy that like the world found. So
Wait, what?
how does someone in 1887, is that what it is? Know what a mummy looked like?
Wait, I thought they were putting ground up mummy in like tea and shit like long before.
That sounds like a
So
break.
so those people, so like Egyptians knew about mummies and stuff, but the world didn't really know about mummies until King Tut. Is my understanding.
Yeah, it's
of,
sounding.
like,
I think you're correct on that. Which is, well.
It just seems weird that.
So it says in 1881, Ramses II mummy was discovered in a secret royal cache.
1881. So that's 7 years before that article is published in that newspaper. And if you go back to it, that thing, it says a year later he published his most grand version of his story. So what that tells me is that he wasn't getting eyes on his original story, so he made it more grandiose.
Yeah, I mean, I'm finding different stuff on this. When you just Google it, the first thing that pops up is 1936. But then there's one saying 1881 here. It's so King Tut was found in 1922.
Yeah, February.
Ramses is saying, in 1881 for Ramses. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not
I'm playing the skeptic here. That's all I'm doing.
I don't think you're playing it. I think you are a skeptic, which is a good thing. I'm not. That's not a shot.
Yeah.
I think it's
Skeptic.
good
Yeah,
to
you
have
be
that skepticism.
skeptics.
I mean, I'm not that big of a skeptic about this. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Well, look, we already know the
definitely a very
aliens carved out
interesting-
these caverns. That's already known.
I think
tell
the
you
real
what,
proof that this is
51
all a
minutes
hoax
in,
is that
that's
the
the
British
first time
didn't
y'all
loot
used
the
that.
place.
Yeah.
What was that, Caleb?
51 minutes in. That's the first time. I'm disappointed in both of y'all.
I'm gonna save it because I like to blow people's eardrums with it.
So I don't want to keep boring everyone with this whole article. If you're interested in keep digging through it, I'm not seeing much stuff that I want to really talk about. I think we've covered most of the things we wanted to talk about. Because it really gets into like it really just this guy kind of starts jumping into just ancient Egypt and why he believes it's not true. And that's not really the point.
Why does he believe?
I didn't read this far into it. to be
Okay,
honest.
that's the fact.
I think the main reason that I found that this guy doesn't believe it was the farthest I got was that it was the whole snake oil argument that you could.
Okay.
It's because he found this on the basis of it being a front page on a newspaper, and the newspapers of the 1890s to the like 1920s were very. There were a lot of hoaxes throughout it. So
Yeah.
that was his like main and first argument of it.
Okay.
So I've got this. So this pyramid here, the pyramid of Isis. What kind of dispels this one for me is that although, if you couldn't see this over here, you might think that this is a nice limestone cap like it is on the Great Pyramids.
Mhm.
But when you look at the other fucking sediment adjacent to it, it just looks like a natural erosion spot to me, man.
Well, and so if you go below, right, right where your mouse was hovering before that, that ridge is actually curved, and at the bottom left of this picture is a 90-degree angle, which on the other side where your cursor was. So like on the far left, yeah, right below your cursor right now. There's a 90-degree angle, and this is one of the things that conspiracy theorists like to say it was man-made, which I don't buy, honestly. But they're saying that this part right here is unnatural. I don't
See,
know if I really
the thing about it though is like you look at all of that, and all I see is like eroded and exfoliated stone. I don't see any
look at
evidence of
every
like
other pyramid we've discovered.
Also, none of us here on this panel are trained in geology and can know what we're looking for.
But
We're
we
just
not
do
a
know
seeing-
someone that
rockologist.
does know geology.
Was that a disclaimer,
Who?
Damio?
Yeah, no.
The opinions discussed here today do not accurately depict the true thoughts and beliefs of the Gatekeepers Daimyo or the
He doesn't want the whole thing.
What was that you just said, Caleb, previously?
No, is he sitting in the back room? We've got a geologist.
Who, Rollo?
Yeah.
No, he's not in the back room.
He's
He didn't get a link.
So my issue with all this about these, because there's supposedly two other pyramids right here, is look at every other pyramid that we have discovered. They're not.
Well,
This would have to be the worst constructed pyramid to have eroded like this.
okay,
Well, it's in a harsh area, though.
An
is it
actual
not?
disclaimer
point.
first is I don't think any of these were there's nothing that says all of them were pyramids. So only this one I believe is to be theorized
it was
as a
temple.
pyramid.
Okay.
Yeah, these
Apologies.
So-
well, the ISIS
But
temple.
here's the counter argument to that. Perhaps these were natural structures, and there was no
Tunneled in
like
there.
they did some work to the stuff, like where you see those 90-degree angles and curves. Maybe that was part of like a man-made construction, but the top part, you could argue that, well, maybe they did nothing to it, and it was just this portion that they were working with.
So
Hmm.
to the layman's eye, this looks like a river cut out all of this shit.
Yes, I
To
agree.
me,
Perhaps a
And you can
great
see-
flood.
well, yeah, okay, well, that's a different argument, yes, but it did the Younger Dryas theory disproves the pyramid or man-made theory that, like, look, you can see all the different levels of water throughout the millions of
Right.
years. So
Not just water, but sediment.
time to get your guys' actual tinfoil hats on, because we're gonna dive into shit. Which one is it?
Are we getting into the one that?
Screw you, Jim.
I don't think you misspoke that badly.
Oh no, I was just getting ready.
Oh,
Are we getting into the one with like the telepathic like thought crystals or whatever?
is that the one I sent you?
No.
Oh, okay.
That was something
Okay, bye,
completely different
Caleb.
that came up while I was
You can-
researching this.
Yeah, bye. Caleb, it was great talking to you, buddy.
Now,
I love how loud that
Nadia,
is.
what would have been even funnier is if you had dropped me out while he played that.
Yeah. So okay, before we get into this one, and we're not going to read this one, we're just going to we're just going to go to the pictures and pretty much make fun of them. Is what I was going to do. I
Okay.
don't really know if not actually. I don't really. It's just this one seemed really, really sketchy to me. So I'm going to start with the disclaimer they have on this. Some photos have been supplied for information purposes / examples of relics and are not from the Grand Canyon discovery. That immediately is telling to me that, like, ooh, can we actually believe you?
It's good.
And do they tell us which ones?
I don't. I think anyone that doesn't say this is from it, this is from the
Probably
Grand
that
Canyon,
one.
is probably.
Next one.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, but there is
Fuck.
another one that I think they say looks like it. But so this is one of the entrances. First of all, to the cave.
I don't see bars. Oh, well, they're probably further in.
Well, there's probably from a different one. So yeah, this one. I don't even know why they put this one in.
They definitely found those in there.
So this golden tablet, it says this golden tablet was also discovered in the depths of this tunnel city led by way of Kincaid's cave, and Kincaid's the guy who discovered this stuff. And if that's true, this doesn't look like the hieroglyphics that we or hieroglyphs that we know of when we think of Egypt, but this could be one of the, like, it does look similar to like the predated ones.
Mhm.
Does look fucking
I think
cool.
below this image here, it says something about some of the artifacts are on display at the Smithsonian or something like that.
It does say
And
that.
And I'm
Yeah,
just
right
like,
here. So it says the pure gold artifacts from Kincaid's cave and these Egyptian urns from Powell's cave are some of the only historical artifacts from the Grand Canyon on display at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. If that's true, why the fuck are those in Arizona?
Which ones?
It says both of these urns and this, but I don't know if I really trust that these.
I was
these
about to say those look. I don't
Those look-
trust
yeah.
that those would be from the Grand Canyon at all.
They
It sounds like bunk.
this website claims that they're on display at the Smithsonian.
It does claim that.
Well,
That's
who
why.
lives- anybody live near DC?
You're probably the closest one.
We're not talking about sending Rolo over to check this, are we?
That's actually why
pretty
he's
close.
not on stream tonight. He's doing a personal favor for me and heading down to.
He's-
He's playing
breaking
Nick
into the
Cage
Natural
and he's going to
History
steal
Museum.
the Declaration of Independence.
Wait, who am I kidding? He already knows this
Hey,
stuff.
I'm down.
He already knows this. He doesn't have to go there.
We'll go on a treasure hunt. Hell yeah.
So yeah, I'm in complete agreement. I think there are sketchy things about the Smithsonian that they aren't telling us, but I'm not willing to just believe this random Daily Odd Sandens.WordPress website.
Yeah, it's
I'm
a
just-
WordPress.
Sounds
Son.
legitimate to me.
Yeah, I've never heard of it before. It sounds legitimate. So the first American explorer archaeologist that searched the Grand Canyon was John Wesley Powell, who partnered with a native, Jacob Berman Hamblin, who served in his place as a late partner for the expedition. Powell worked as an explorer, blah, blah, blah. the U.S. Department of Interior directed. Okay. So he worked for the Smithsonian. In 1869, Powell traveled down to the Green River to explore the Grand Canyon and was the first person to report any archaeological information of the U.S. government. So not helpful at all. Just a description of who these two guys
I
in
would
this photo
say it would help for me to find him more trustworthy if those pants were all the way to the nipples. I mean,
on, this might be a little interesting. I don't know if this. It's hard to really take this quote serious. I mean, that look. So to Caleb's point, like at the beginning of the stream, that looks like it was made from a river. This picture. Do you guys agree?
Is this the small one? Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I could.
That looks like water erosion.
Yeah,
nice and smooth and round, no chippage really. Could be. Could be indeed.
Is this the Buddha-looking statue?
So I am on the Smithsonian's Archives website right now, and can find nothing relating between the Pharaoh and the Grand Canyon. And if this thing was on display, it would be listed in the archives.
Yeah,
Like, you could-
100%.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
only
you
that,
could
but,
definitely
the
say,
Smithsonian would be
well, of
telling
course
on
they're not
themselves.
listing in the archives because they want to keep it secret.
For the
Sure.
cover up.
But if they've got it on display, it'd be fucking listed in the archives.
Yeah, 100% agreed. This apparently,
Right.
and again, this looks like something that was actually found in like Indonesia.
Okay, you actually jumped me with
Sorry.
that one.
My internet got real bad all of a sudden.
This looks like it was found in Indonesia, not like I really both of these photos. That's why I don't really trust this article. It's like I feel like some freaking tinfoil hat crazy out in the middle of Nevada just like plastered together this article. Legitimately, like,
Passing around the peyote and shit.
yeah, like I don't know, dude. Like this is legitimately that has to be from Egypt. I don't really buy that this was found in.
Mhm.
I don't know,
It's just
Daimyo. They
me,
don't
the
know.
weird
They don't
part
let no
about
one
all
in.
Yeah,
Is them not or him not, putting a disclaimer next to the photos that aren't. Like I can tell you right now, that one right there, that Buddha is not in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, I was gonna
That
say
would be
if there
like
was something
one
like
of
that
the
in the Grand
number
Canyon.
one attractions.
Yeah.
You can fuck right off with that shit. That's no good. Yeah, I don't think this article is any good. What do you think, Antonio?
What do you think, Antonio?
You do enjoy the soundboard, don't you?
I do. I do.
I do too.
Enjoy.
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
I was
I,
talking to
I
you.
enjoy the sound bar, the clips. They're good
Mhm.
times.
I need to make some for myself.
This Orion zone that I
Yeah,
can't-
that was
I
gonna be
can
the next
scroll
thing I
to.
pointed back.
That's an interesting topic. But
What is that?
I guess somebody had to really shit.
sorry.
Oh, no,
What did I miss?
I want to
Sure,
talk about
sure.
the Orion zone because
We proved the
that
theory of
top
everything
one's-
while you were gone.
Photoshop.
Oh,
bullshit.
nice.
Yeah,
I'm done,
I'm
man.
building I've got all the math done for my time machine. The entire Thanks, bud.
Damn. Damn.
and he never spoke again.
So yeah, where do we leave off?
I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
This is neat-ish.
The map?
Yeah.
Go for it.
I mean, it's claiming that a lot of these sites are lining up to form a similar shape to the constellations. Therefore, pitching the idea that they were strategically placed, even though they appeared to be naturally formed.
Well, it goes to the man-made thing. Now, I will say, even if I don't think the exterior is man-made, I think it wouldn't
Maybe-
be out of that
maybe they
time
tunneled it on
period.
purpose.
Yeah, like it dug out and created. Like if there was
Yeah.
already a natural structure, they could have just like pinpointed, and if there was a natural system of caves, and hypothetically these were man-made, it would make sense for these ancient cultures to create it in the constellations, because I mean, we already know that Egypt, ancient Egypt, the places in Mexico, like the Andes that we were talking about before, like they did line up all of their pyramids that were man-made. Well, it could have just been for this region that they decided to dig out or, you know, reconfigure natural existing areas into a constellation. Like there's
I mean,
probably go on.
Yeah, like it could have been, but I feel like a lot of the times when things like these are pitched or suggested, there's usually something that's not quite in place, and they make you like see there's a bunch of extra temples.
Yeah, well, one of the things
Well,
is
how big are those circles too?
there's that, but
Right.
the night sky shifts over long periods of time. Like the constellations we see today, not the same as what people saw back then. So the fact that this
Well,
is lining
Not
up
in the same
today,
spot. Not in the same spot in the sky.
yeah, no, the stars actually move around individually because they have their own orbits, their own gravitational effects on everything around them, and vice versa.
How long of a period are you talking about? Because like
10,000 years is enough to change it significantly.
Okay, well, so just to
is it?
just to argue that one, Crimson, Graham Hancock was talking about
Is
the Sphinx, and I forget what's the constellation that has to do with a lion?
Leo?
Leo.
Leo. So even
Pretty easy
today,
to remember, honestly.
I know.
20,000 years ago,
yeah.
it would have aligned
Even
with Leo.
even today, the Sphinx will line up with the constellation of Leo. So there's, I forget, it's a specific time of the year, but it'll line up so perfectly that you can see it if you're standing in front of the Sphinx. And the
See,
the
Crimson,
theory
I
behind
don't-
that is that the Sphinx was actually a lion previous to it. Like the head of it was a lion before it was a pharaoh.
Mhm.
So,
Clearly
One of the
manipulated.
pharaohs decided they wanted their head on there. And
well, yeah,
Before
exactly,
Napoleon
and it's a
shot
little
its
bit.
nose off.
Okay.
That's a little bit too coincidental that and that has been proven that the constellation lines up with it. So it's yeah, that's and it lines up to where like the Great Pyramids are part of the formation of the constellation. That's a little bit too much evidence. So even if they're shifting a little bit, the fact that they're still lining up, I think would
Yeah.
argue against that.
Yeah, maybe that's why.
fair enough. I'll take the L on that one.
Maybe that's why he shot the nose off. Oh,
Yeah.
Napoleon.
No. Napoleon shot the top of the pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Oh, right.
gonna-
Yeah, right, Caleb.
I can't wait to meet you and punch you.
We saw that in the movie, Caleb.
Yeah.
That's what they wrote.
So
read it.
let me ask you, the lineup, are we talking about if you're standing, 1,000 yards from the side of the Sphinx, it lines up on the horizon?
I'm gonna butcher it. I'm an idiot. So let me try to find this.
I'm assuming.
I think
if you were
it's-
behind it where it's facing.
Yeah, it's the point of and also the point of the star, like one of the like main stars in that constellation line up. Like you could, yeah, exactly kind of what Dog was saying. Like you can see it, but also like I can't.
Dates it because apparently, like 2,000 years ago, it would have been facing it. Or not 2,000. Fuck's sake, 20,000. Which
So the only
suggests
reason I
it's much
asked is
older.
because I googled it just to try to see because that would be like a award-winning photograph, and
Yeah,
unfortunately,
it's not happening nowadays. I don't
can't
think
the
that
only
video was
things I
right there.
get are like weird little here are outlines of the stars, and here's a picture of
Okay.
the Sphinx.
I am praying that this works. I don't know if this one specifically is Randall Carlson.
I more just want to see the picture and not a.
You're building an equinoctial marker in 2500 BC. Do you know what constellation is housing the sun in 2500 BC?
I haven't run the little program.
Well,
to
it's the
see.
constant
Sun.
So logically, if you're making an equinoctial marker in 2500 BC, you really should create it in the form of a bull, not in the form of a lion. You know, that's the puzzling issue. And yet we do have a time when a lion constellation housed the sun at dawn on the spring equinox, and that is the period of the Younger Dryas.
Well, actually, that goes to what you were saying, is
Right.
that
We're
the constellations shift.
So
Yeah, no, I just did a quick
Yes.
Google search, and yeah, over these like thousands of years, the 1,000-year periods and such, they shift incrementally in degrees.
Right.
Things do
What does it
change.
mean?
There's also part of it that is our orbit around the center of our galaxy, which
Well-
takes an effing long time. That
I-
also shifts our view of the constellations.
So I think one of the most important things to take away from my butchering of this, though, is that how are these people who
Mine too.
aren't supposed to be sophisticated as we are able to align structures with constellations, and why are they doing
so
that?
aligning the structure with the constellation does not surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Really?
the thing
Stonehenge, all of
surprises
that.
Me,
We don't know who built Stonehenge, though, and we don't know how
the
it's
thing that
built.
surprises me
You know why?
when things are, let's just say, done to perfection. So like if you're, just imagine you're sitting out there in you're probably a priest sitting out there in 12500 is what is the year he was giving. And you're like, okay, I need to do something to make my whatever worth it. Let's build a structure to the constellation that houses. So that's my first question. What is he meaning when he says? Because I don't do astrology. That shit is dumb as fuck. What constellation houses the sun? What is that?
On the equinox, which has a very
Yeah.
strong like influence on life, because that's usually the time of harvest, correct?
Well, I also want to just pry for a second, Caleb, when you said it's dumb as fuck to like are you saying he's dumb as fuck for even saying that, or like
No, I'm
Okay,
saying
okay,
that
okay.
someone that sits there and says that the way that the stars line up affects the way I live my life.
no, that's
He's saying the
dumb as
practice
shit.
of astrology. Is
Yes,
dumb.
no. Him
yes.
saying
Oh,
that
yeah.
an ancient civilization
I'm
built
a
something
Libra,
because
therefore
of
I can't
the
do
way.
this.
Yeah, him saying the way an ancient civilization built something because of the way the sun, the most important star in our solar system,
Okay.
lined up with other stars that they probably used for travel.
It is
It's
the
not
only
dumb.
star.
That is
in our
And
solar
exactly
timestamp.
what would have happened.
So even the Hoover Dam is actually time stamped in a way that future civilizations,
Mhm.
because that potentially can be around for a long time, it's time stamped with the image of the constellations when it was built.
Yeah. So, I in no way am I saying that using constellations and the sun is dumb. No, I think people who say, "Well, I was born when Mars was in retrograde," I think they're fucking idiots.
You're also talking potentially as well. They may have viewed the constellations as gods.
Yes, which we know they did because Leo and especially the Greeks viewed constellations as representations of their gods.
Of their gods. Right.
Yeah.
So what I was saying was it does not shock me that a civilization that created the sun god Ra built something related to the sun
Sure.
and lined it up, because if you go outside you can't miss it.
Especially for an
So
equinox,
that's
which is like the pinnacle
that's what
of
I
the
was saying.
season.
I wasn't saying
Right,
that
right.
I don't think it takes an alien to say, hey, that really important thing that we kind of worship, let's build something and line it up to this
Oh,
other
We've been
thing
doing
that
that forever.
is important on the in the calendar year.
Well,
Yeah.
okay. So before we get, because I want to spend the last thing just kind
I
of.
love how
shooting the
we
shit.
went from the Grand Canyon to Egypt.
Well,
But, like,
no. Okay, so I
awesome
mean,
Well, it was about how the
whole-
Grand Canyon and
kinda had
Egypt are
some-
related.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
it kind of
That-
had the
that's very
whole.
true.
Yeah, it was connected from the start, but just in terms of the topic. But I want to just like actually finish on that of what you guys thought about everything we went over. Did any of these things kind of like sway you one way to the other? I'm personally still indifferent on any definitive perspective on this topic. I think it's too hard to say. I think it's still very, very sketchy that the Smithsonian doesn't like list anything on their website or give us any pictures of the inside. I think that's weird. I don't know that I believe all the quote unquote evidence that there is for it. I still don't think that it's bats or a danger issue. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Still on the more skeptical side that there might be something being covered up, but I don't think it's some crazy conspiracy theory that Egyptians were here at this point. I think that they're more likely than not is an unexplainable object or
It's
carved.
also clickbait.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's something unexplainable that they can't that they don't have a reason of why it's there. I think that's why they're not letting people down there. I think that's why they're actively trying to persuade and also not allow folks to just wander into those caves because they don't want it coming out that they can't explain something. That's my kind of conclusion on this. Crimson, why don't you give us yours, and then Dog and Caleb.
So I'm not really committed to the idea, but there's a part of me that just says there's too much chaos surrounding all this. It feels like this was mostly just some story a newspaper out in the middle of Arizona decided they were going to run because it was sensational. And then over time, it got blown way out of proportion. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah,
I feel like
solid.
I lean more towards the idea that it's a hoax, but I'm still open to the idea if we find some evidence. Like, again, I still haven't seen anything that has proven that G.E. Kincaid was a real person that actually made these discoveries. Supposedly, from some of the things that were stated about him, he was the first white child born in Idaho or something like that. But you can look that up and prove that one false.
Can you say that one more time?
No. Discussed here today do not accurately depict the true thoughts and beliefs of the Gatekeeper's daimyo or the invited guests. The statements spoken do not constitute any jurisdictional relationship between the viewer and the daimyo.
I'm actually serious. I moved away. I couldn't hear my speaker.
I said I was looking up information on G.E. Kincaid to see if he was actually a real person or if this rebuttal I was reading was correct in saying that he was a completely fabricated identity. And supposedly the articles that were written about him in this Arizona newspaper said he was the first white child born in Idaho. I don't know why that's relevant, but hey, it was 1908 or something like that, right?
Okay.
Yeah, you can look that one up and prove it false, but
all right.
It's so murky. There's so much crap surrounding it. I think it's a hoax.
Yeah. Could be.
Dog, where are you at?
I'm at that. I think certainly nothing was like man-made, constructed, or anything like that. But there very well could be intricate tunnel systems, and they could have been formed on those structures and kind of made into temples.
Yeah, I actually I forgot to say. Yeah, I think it's more likely than not that it was naturally made structures that were reshaped by humans.
Inhabited, yeah.
Inhabited, yeah.
Yeah. I think that could be the case. Now, whether or not there's any tie to Egypt, and whether or not there's a cover up of the Smithsonian, or if this whole thing is to just get people to talk about the Smithsonian again, they might it might be a little extra deep dive conspiracy that they're setting up in their own kind of hoax to get people to click on their videos and get people to come into their museum. So I don't know. Interesting topic though, and I always love it when it ties back to Egypt. So
Yeah, same here. Caleb?
So I think I'm kind of in between Crimson and Dog on this. I think that there's definitely a question here to be answered. Why I think bats is a really stupid reason.
I do
Especially
too.
if there's no documentation behind this. If it's just don't scare the bats. Okay, why? So I think there's a question to be answered. There appears to be some sort of relationship between Egypt, but whether it's because they came over here on a land bridge, they came over here on when it was Pangea X number 1,000 years ago, I couldn't tell you, but it's definitely by far one of the more interesting topics that I think we've discussed on
Oh yeah.
at least that I have discussed with y'all.
No, I hear that, and I really appreciate that you came on, because I know these tinfoil ones tend to grind your gears a bit in a sense. But I think the really interesting part about this topic is the fact that there's actual history on this area, and there are definitely folks out there who are more on the tinfoil side of it.
When y'all were looking through all this stuff, were there ever any interviews with any of the Indian tribes in the area?
That's really what I want,
because they would know.
Yeah.
The only Native American thing I saw was talking about the actual explorer who made
Native
the trip
American.
down the Indian Native American. I just at some point I got used to saying Native American. The only thing I ever mentioned was one of them who was a partner to an explorer who made a trip down the Colorado River prior to when this whole discovery was supposedly made.
Okay.
That's the only one I ever saw. I don't think I ever saw any interviews with the natives.
Who were I'm already forgetting the.
Yeah, it's just it's really interesting. I like the whole histrionics side of all of it. I do tend to lean towards more the Occam razors thing, that it's the closest line is probably the truth.
The simplest solution is
and for this, I think it's probably more like the reason behind it today is just there's no money in it. There's no money in finding a cut up piece of hieroglyphics in a cave in Arizona, especially if they're hieroglyphics that looked like that other one that was on that website, and not the pictorial hieroglyphics that we know of so well. I think there's more money in the stuff going on in Turkey.
Yeah. Go back like Tepe.
Yeah. See, I can never.
To your point, Caleb, if they're investing in researching what's going on in those caves, you're probably dealing with something Native American, and who knows how much that's actually going to be this.
Oh, I can tell you, if they're having to deal with
could be cursed,
the reservations and shit, that stuff, we won't find out about that stuff for another decade. Those things
isn't it not in the national park? I thought that was the whole thing. The Park Service is the ones that are telling people.
So it is in a national park, but I mean, if they're having to deal with getting answers from the Indians and the different tribes, or
I believe out there
got
they call them
something
Indians
here in the park, but then there's a discovery that might help over on the reservation. That stuff's going to sit in litigation for.
So all I can find right now is the Hopi who are of this area. There's a myth or a story about this is going to sound funny, but the Spider Woman and her helpers. And it's basically it's basically a myth that they needed pyramids here.
That they needed.
Yeah, they needed them. It was believed it was out of balance and was found wobbling in space. 2 twin ice caps formed on each other or on each pole, and their weight stabilized the planet. So I guess I was wrong before about how they didn't know who built them, but there is a myth surrounding the Hopi.
Like a legend?
Yeah, there's a legend within the Hopi tribe about these pyramids, or quote-unquote pyramids.
Cool.
What I might be making this up, but I'm pretty sure that there's a deal between the Department of the Interior, well, the U.S. government, and one of the tribes in the area, where that tribe is basically allowed to do whatever the fuck they want in the Grand Canyon because it's like sacred ground for them.
Well, I mean, that's already the case with most tribes in North America. Like, they don't have to do any, like, they don't have to go get licenses.
Right, but like their shit is limited to reservations. Like they're like this, I think it's the Sioux are not allowed to like go to the Black Hills and take stuff because it's a national park. But I think there is a deal between one of the tribes in the Four Corners area and the U.S. government for the Grand Canyon. I might be completely making that up.
I'm not sure.
But it sounds familiar to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that specifically, but the Hopi are definitely aware of these, and it sounds like actually I don't think I'm completely wrong. It sounds like they don't know who built them, and they kind of created a myth surrounding this this structure.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely some form of like man-made structure there. And if that's correct, I would say those are probably the only people that are allowed to actually descend that. Is that the right word? Descend the mountain or descend the
Ascend.
Yeah. Ascend the
canyon.
Yeah. The canyon and actually
ascending is going up.
I was about to say ascend goes
descending
up,
was
descending going down.
Descending was
Well, you got to come back out. Damn it.
Regardless, you guys know what I'm saying. So I
don't want kids.
Caleb, I would actually say that like what you're saying, if that's true, they're probably the only people that are allowed to, and they probably keep that stuff secret because there's probably a bunch of stuff that
probably part of the
religion, you know. Any last thoughts, gentlemen?
Great episode.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one.
I say cheese, sir.
I did.
We don't talk about cheese on this channel, actually.
Talk about what?
Cheese.
Oh.
Actually, though, any last thoughts, gentlemen?
Do you know what y'all are talking about next week?
I don't know.
Little tease.
Well, what if you asked the chat if there was anything that they...
I thought about that, but there's only 4 folks watching. Hey, for the 4 folks...
You have people watch afterwards. If they would, drop a comment down below, and we will review and possibly do what you suggest.
And this is why he is my editor, because he thinks about these things, and I don't. Hawk Epstein, I actually
like do that. Hit that like button.
First of all, to Great Pilgrim's point, I like my channel. I want my channel to stay up.
I was gonna say
for now, that's a no. I'm not even gonna say his name. Yeah,
you already did.
Oh shit.
That's like
goodbye, channel.
That's like
really
Daryl's.
I enjoyed
that's like
this.
posting Daryl's alt account.
No, but in all reality, so all of a sudden I have 6 people now watching right when I was going to shut it down. But actually, though, chat, whoever's watching this, if you guys have something that you're interested in us talking about, for next week, please let me know. I was on the border of Antarctica. I've been kind of wanting to do that one. I don't know if that's something that interests my
Ooh.
panel guests.
Antarctica's interesting to me.
Yeah, I'd be down.
I like ice.
That's
I like
not. That's
cold.
all. Captain America came from Antarctica.
But
so-
also, we will keep
Then
it
shouldn't he
open.
be
Go ahead
Captain
and
Antarctica?
drop those comments,
He
and
didn't come from Antarctica.
we will see.
But yeah, for anyone that's watching this on replay, go ahead and drop a comment of what you think would be interesting to talk about.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to the Gatekeepers Daimyo.
Thank you, and to also Crimson Law, and to Star Wars Dog, and the King's Advisors. Yeah, so I'm not seeing any responses so far. But yeah, if you guys think of something, please leave a comment below on what you think would be interesting to talk about. I think for now I'm gonna stick with Antarctica, but I'm also pretty interested in like the Siberia region.
Oh,
What
so
if
we
you
just want to be
just, like,
cold.
Frozen tundras.
Yeah,
Finally, the outside
cold.
matched the inside of me.
But yeah,
like diamonds in an ice storm. Just
We'll start
Everyone-
with
Hard
the
as hell.
thing.
thank you so much for stopping by and sticking around. King Chris, RG Energy, Pilgrim.
You think Roman stuck around?
No, I don't think so. I was just saying. I'm just reading off chat. Yosef, Purist. I appreciate you, brother, and thank you to my guests. I always appreciate you guys coming on. Crimson Law. I know this isn't your forte in terms of YouTube, but I think this was a great conversation. You had a lot to offer.
It was fun.
And
Definitely fun.
you actually researched stuff, which
Right.
which is
Better than me.
yeah.
How's that.
Yeah.
Look, if I'm gonna open my mouth on something, I might as well.
You might as well know what
know
you're
what I'm
talking
talking
about.
about.
Ronnie, go to bed.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I caught everyone. I don't think there's anyone else that was in chat that
Yep.
needs to be highlighted.
I'd love to, thank Rolo for attending and
And
watching.
thank you,
but
Ronnie.
He didn't.
This was a test. I didn't send him the link, so he's probably like, "You streamed today?" Rolo, I love you, brother. Hopefully, you're gonna be on next week. We'll see if you get a link.
But also go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Well, he's busy.
Well,
putting
I
out that
mean-
clip.
Discussed here today do not accurately depict the true thoughts and beliefs of the Gatekeepers Daimyo or the invited guests. The statements spoken.
Or the invited guests. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We will see you next week. Peace out.
All right, we'll see you.
Peace out, guys.
Look, here's
We're
the
gonna be
thing.
fine. Listen,
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.